interviewing my dad.
Well,
So the first question is, what is your most beautiful or best experience so far in your life?
that's a tough question. I can remember the first time I went to a baseball game when I was a little kid. If I'm thinking going back as a little kid, I remember going to a baseball game and just being awestruck by how big the stadium was. I guess it was, compared to watching it on TV, it was nothing that I expected it to be, and I just remember being completely awestruck.
As your best experience in your whole life?
Well, looking.
Do you have any regrets you made in your life?
I know one thing I wished I went into the armed service. I wish I served my country in the Army. That's something that I would say that I've regretted. And now being the age I am, I know it's not something that I could do. And I've always thought I wish I served my country in the Army or armed services.
Very fascinating. What is your favorite memory from your childhood?
I remember my parents took me to Michigan to meet some relatives on my father's side of the family, and I remember being able to get up in a big tractor and drive the tractor through the cornfields, and that was pretty exciting as a child to be able to drive a tractor. And being someone that came from kind of the city, if you will, being out in a big field driving a tractor was something I had never had experienced, so that was pretty exciting.
What makes you happy in life?
I love the outdoors. I love nature, trees, wind blowing, birds, just like being outdoors. Hiking, going to the beach, anything outdoors always makes me happy.
Yeah, you seem to like to encourage us to go outside and experience it.
Yeah, I guess I always think that you can get a lot from just being outdoors, just sitting and just observing.
If you could redo any day, would you?
You know, it's funny you should ask me that because I know there have been times when some really bad things have happened, or I've done something really bad, and I said, "Boy, I wish that day never happened," or I don't know if I'll ever live this day down. I'll be stuck with that embarrassing moment for the rest of my life. And then, no, now you're asking me this question, I can't even think of what those things are. So that just kind of goes to prove that sometimes things seem to be bigger than they really are. And over time, those embarrassing moments or those bad things kind of go away, and they're really not as bad as you think they are.
It's almost like you realize, that's part of my life. It's going to be part of my story. Is that what you think?
Yeah, maybe part of my life, or just, I think it's more, sometimes things seem bad or they seem worse than they really are. At the time, they seem like big deals, but in the spectrum of your whole life.
How did you decide you wanted to be an architect?
I think it came from watching, well, it definitely came from watching my father. I think the very first time, my mother, we only had one car in the family, so my mother had to go pick my father up from work, and he worked as a draftsman in an architect's office. So she would pick him up, and every so often she would let me go inside to tell my father that we were here, and maybe it was because he was busy and he needed a little bit longer. But when I went up into that architect's office and I saw all those people drawing and I saw all those models and stuff, I got really excited and got very interested in probably what my father was doing.
So it's like you saw it and you said, you know what, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. And then my father would take me on like Saturdays, he would take me in the car to projects and show me projects that he had designed and that were under construction. And I would see them being built, and I just thought that was totally awesome that you could put it on paper and then actually see it come to life in a building. So cool. Just always got excited.
But was it like right before you were graduating, did you decide like that was what you wanted to study? You didn't want to do anything else?
I wanted to be an architect from the time I was probably I can remember like in first or second grade, believe it or not. my father had a drawing board in the basement, and he would be working on projects after hours, and I would sit next to him and watch him draw. Or if he wasn't there, I would go and sit at the drawing board and start trying to. Maybe I was trying to copy what he was doing, but I would try to come up with my own drawings.
Cool.
So it started at a very young age, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. That's all I ever wanted to do.
That's very fascinating that you knew since you were young that what you wanted to do, because a lot of people struggle with figuring out what they do, or they bounce from lots of ideas until they decide it. So, how would you like to be remembered?
I think I'd just like to be remembered as a good, caring person. Good, caring person who made a difference in the world in some way. And I know as an architect, I create buildings, and I feel like I have the opportunity to change people's lives by creating those buildings.
And would you want to be remembered as a name or as the person you were? Like, do you want people to just like see your name and be like, "Oh, that's who that was"?
I don't know. I guess a name. I mean, I just want to be remembered as a good person. So, when someone's doing something, or another, my grandchildren. Hopefully, I'll have grandchildren, and they'll think, "Geez, my grandpa was a nice person." I guess it would be. I would want someone to want to say they want to live like he did. He was a good person. I want to be like him. So
I want to live like Robert Scalostra.
Yeah, there you go, like that. So if someone that would be. I'd want someone to want to live the way I lived and say, "Geez, he did. He was a good enough person that's someone I could emulate."
And I think you're on a right track, because you are someone I would want to live like.
Yeah. That's a nice thing for you to say. I appreciate that.
What advice would you give to people about being yourself? Because you seem like someone who is themselves. They can be goofy. You're not afraid to be goofy or silly in front of people, because if they don't like you, that's how it is. So.
Well, I would say that you want to be yourself. And although I can say that sometimes it's hard and you have a tendency to hold back, but I know as I've gotten older and as I've experienced life, I've learned that it's more important to be yourself, because in the end, that's what people appreciate, and you have more fun too if you're being yourself. And really, sometimes you hold like you're too people are too self-conscious or too worried about what someone else might think of them. And while you're spending all that time worrying about that stuff, then you're not, you're just not getting ahead, or you're not doing the stuff that you could be doing that would actually get you where you want to go. So when you're worrying about yourself, and what other people think, then you're not doing the stuff that you want to do.
Like, because I know sometimes in the car you tell me, like, I'll ask you something about, like, something, and you'll be like, "Oh, who cares? No one will care," so.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm just giving you life lessons, because I could imagine, I could see when I was younger, I would be worrying about the same things that you're worrying, but then I know as I gotten older that
it doesn't matter.
The reality is it doesn't matter, and maybe I see that those things maybe held me back. I could have done more when I was younger if I wasn't worrying. So I'm just kind of trying to pass on advice to you so that you don't maybe, you can just live slightly different or better, because not do the same things I did that maybe didn't work out.
Would you say it's like is it like other people's loss if they judge you for being yourself? Is it just their loss, or?
That was a good way to put it, actually. See, you answered the question yourself.
What is your favorite quote about life, and why?
Well, I don't know if I have a favorite, but I certainly have one that I really like, and it's remember, it's just a bad day, not a bad life.
I like that. I think it's
And that's just something to, because you know you're going to have bad days. Things are just not going to go the way you want them. But if you can remember that it's just a bad day and not a bad life, maybe actually you'll get over the bad day. It won't even really be a bad day if you think that it's um, just, again, it gets back to not making bigger things out of, making things seem bigger than they really are. Bigger problems than they really are, I guess.
So, you think just kind of give yourself confidence to push yourself forward to go to the next day?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, some days, you know, I have a bad day at work sometimes. I'm all stressed out. And you just have to, you don't want to carry that into the next day, so you just got to say, remember, it's just a bad day. It's not a bad life.
Like you gotta.
Because you could start getting yourself down, and then you'll have another bad day if you're depressed. So you don't want to be depressed. You want to put the bad day behind you and move on.
Like accept that everyone has bad days.
Yeah,
That's how life is.
Yeah.
10th question is, if you could meet/talk to anyone or anybody in the world, who would it be and why? Just one person.
Just one person. So if I have to just pick one person, I'll pick Charlie Daniels. I've always
explain who he is.
Yeah, so Charlie Daniels, you know, he's a kind of southern rock musician, but he's also a very spiritual person, which I've always admired. And he's, I guess it's the combination of being very spiritual, and he's just someone I've always kind of respected. Uses his music to get some of his points of view across.
Like about America, right?
Yeah, about America and about the way that he feels, you know, you should live your life. He does it through his music.
And what's like something you would say to him or ask him?
Oh boy, that's good. I know I probably would be like...
Surprise you with that one.
What would I say to him? I probably would just congratulate him and just let him know how much I appreciate his music and the kind of the words of wisdom that I've taken from some of his songs and some of the things that he's written. So I'd probably be more of a, just kind of thanking him, telling him how much I admire his stuff.
That's very fascinating and interesting. This interview is getting to an end. Is there anything you would like to add as your exit to this lovely chat?
I guess I would just say I found this going through this interview pretty insightful. It made me think of some things that I maybe haven't thought about in a while, or maybe it allowed me to put some things that I'm sometimes thinking about into words as I responded to your questions. So I found it pretty interesting.
Cool. And I thought I learned a lot about you. Some stuff I already knew, but some stuff more into detail about your life.
Well,
so I actually enjoyed speaking to you.
Well, I appreciate having the opportunity to do this.
I enjoyed speaking with you.
All right, thank you.
Maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Thank you, likewise.
Bye.